Welcome to the Institute of Archaeology at Andrews University and the Siegfried H. Horn Archaeological Museum. My name is Robert Bates and I am the Assistant Director of Archaeological Publications here. Part of my job is to design, develop, and maintain the archaeological databases that we have in our projects. So, my topic today is Database Development for Archaeological Excavations, a FileMaker solution. Except that's not what it says, because we couldn't fit all the words on the wall. And when I asked them to make the wall bigger, they said, "Are you kidding me?" So we have a COVID abbreviation. I'm really happy to be a part of this digital archaeology and history session. It has some of the most creative and innovative papers in all of ASOR, and I appreciate the work of Tiffany Early-Spadoni and all that she's done to make this happen. Last year there were some really great. One of them was by Stefan Munger and Liat Weinblum. In their paper, they described how they use FileMaker in order to go and extract photographs and maps and other things, bring them into the FileMaker file, and then put artifact and feature information embedded into those photographs, so that wherever they show up in the database, they always have that information. Now, this was like super ninja, really incredible stuff. So I know it's probably not something that you or even I could do, but it does show us that this program, FileMaker Pro, can help us with all kinds of complicated information issues. And it helps us record from a simple spreadsheet with photographs to something that has charts and graphs and all kinds of really cool stuff. So I'm going to get to share with you how we use this iPad in order to input information about our archaeological research. Join me as we go into the Institute. Oh, one thing. In addition to a mask, I was going to have everybody come out and say hello, but unfortunately, after Andrews University became the first super spreader event in all of Michigan, which eventually shut down the state and the university, we have to stay 6 feet apart, which is a lot more difficult than you would think.
This is a metric.
Oh, never mind.
Okay.
Since we've been involved in archaeological excavations for over 50 years, we've acquired a lot of data, from objects to bones to pottery. So how do we manage all of this? Well, our solution, of course, is a good archaeological database. One of the earliest pioneers of archaeological database was LaBianca, who is here at the Institute of Archaeology.
Madaba Plains Project Excavation Manual. It started actually in 1971 with the computerization of the animal bones from the archaeological site. These were computerized on these little cards, and the printout was used to generate changes over time in the composition of the animals, which is the basis on which we were able to then tell the story of changing foodways. That in turn led to the development of a standardized format for recording animal bone information already in 1974. And then from there on, I was invited to be part of a project to standardize the information that were coming out of the excavation in these field notes. And we developed these recording sheets for recording locus information, information about objects and so forth. That in turn could then be printed out, it could be computerized, again on cards, but then eventually printed out, and one could do searches for the different types of loci and the discoveries within them. And out of that then came finally the experience that enabled Larry Herr and Gary Christofferson with Randy Yonker to put together this excavation manual, which is now used widely in the area of Central Jordan and elsewhere for recording information from archaeological sites.
In the mid-1990s, Karen Borstad developed a brand new database system. It was called the Data Entry Information Retrieval System, and it used Microsoft Access. And this was revolutionary because you could take your basic laptop or desktop computer and you can use it to enter information about our locus sheets. This is really exciting because we needed to keep track of our objects and to send that information to the Department of Antiquities. Unfortunately, it only lasted for about a decade or so because Microsoft dropped the ball. they stopped developing that. They stopped supporting the software. In fact, it was no longer available or useful for someone with a Macintosh, and it could not be used on an iPad or tablet or any of the new technologies that were emerging. So we needed a new solution. And of course, that solution is FileMaker. Come with me and I will share with you how I developed this project. One thing I learned when developing this iPad database is that not everybody actually understands how to use the technology. So what I did was, since we were in this COVID world this summer and we weren't able to go into the field, is that I developed a tutorial system. It's a series of videos which explains each part of the database on the iPad. So if we take a look at the iPad, we can see that these are actually located on the web. You can find them at andrewsarchaeology.org. Now here we are on the page, and if you go to Fieldwork and look under Fieldwork, there you can find database tutorials. Scroll up from the database tutorials and you will find information about how to log in, and you'll be surprised how many people don't know how to log in, as well as new squares, what to do with new squares, what the home page is for, what square information is about, reopening squares, cleanup loci, etc. Now they're not quite finished. We're hoping to have it done very soon and should have it done by the beginning of next season. But let's just take a look at one of these, and you can of course go online right now and you can watch as many as you like. And I'm going to just go and turn one on so we can get an idea of what they're like. You can see it has this really nice intro. I'm going to start it up here, make it large enough so you can see it on the full screen. And you're going to find, here you go. It's from the Moderate Plains project. Now let's go back and take a closer look at the Square Info and Photos button. So this is a step-by-step program, and if you are going to create your own database on a FileMaker for the iPad, this might be something that you should consider, creating your own tutorials that will help your staff and train them how to use the iPad properly and how to record information correctly. Now let's take a look at the iPad database that I've been talking about. As you look at the iPad, you'll notice that I have several icons here. And the icon that you see that there are a lot of are these ones with little folders. Those actually represent the FileMaker Pro, the old ones. The new one has a slightly different. That's 2019 version. But we're going to work with the 2018 version and open it up. Now, first thing I have to do is put in a password. So look aside. Oh, it's actually a test password. But as you notice, the first thing that you see here is the home page. And the home page is the central hub for the database. It's the place where you can always come back here and go to where you need to go. There's always a button that takes you where you need to go here. So you can see that it is divided up with a row of buttons which are at the top, which include the Locus list, the preferences, the new square button, and the reopen square, so that if you're going to start a new square, you check that button, or if you have already you're coming back to the square, then you check the reopen square, and then the list shows you a list that you can print. So if you need to print, say, Locus 7 here, I can print that Locus if I need to. Then you see that there are a series of buttons that are called square buttons, locus sheet buttons, and list buttons. Now these buttons do a number of different things, but this is where most of the activity takes place. So with our square button, I select the square button. We talked about that. You saw that little YouTube video just a moment ago. The square button is where we find our benchmarks, our top photos. So here are our top photos, there's our benchmarks, there's our top photos. Let's just click that so you can see the top. And this top photo is the one that is taken by a drone or somebody who's got, a camera that is on a boom or something that looks straight down. And then you have square photos, and I usually tell my square supervisors what they need to do is take eight photos every morning, starting on the south block, and circumnavigate the entire square so that you can get it from all angles. And the great thing is that you can have up to 163 photos per day. So there's almost no limit to the amount of photographs. So don't worry about, taking up too much room. Then we have top plans. So here are the top plans. You upload a top plan, whether you draw it and you take a photograph, or if you do something on an iPad, you can draw one on an iPad, you can do it that way. But you always must include what loci are on that top plan, because if you do, then it'll show up on those loci. So for example, it says here, top plan loci locus number 6. So if I go to locus number 6, I will find that this top plan is visible there. Then we also have bulk drawings, and you can add north, south, east, west, sub-bulks, whatever you want to entitle it, you can place them here. And then also all of the staff that we have. So that's our square information page. If we go back now, we can also see where we have what's called a loci reports. Now these are really great because when you click on the loci report, this gives you an opportunity as a field supervisor to check up on your square supervisor. Sometimes they don't always do what they're supposed to do. Like let's say we go here and oh my goodness, looks like this person forgot to put the depth in. Well, I can say here, show me your iPad and let me kind of go through and what are you having trouble with, and I can see the places where critical data has been left out. Just a little check and balance kind of thing. And you can do this for earth, architecture, installation, locus. Now remember, this database is based upon the Modaba Plains Project Dig Manual. So this is the Modaba Plains Project Dig Manual, and the sheets, the reason why there are colors, you know, purple and so on, is because that's the actual color of the sheets when you do them by hand. But now they've been converted to a digital format. I've tried to keep it all together so everything looks kind of uniform. In the next group we see what are called the Locus sheet buttons. Now I'm not going to press any of the new. I'm not going to create a new one right now. You can go to the tutorial and we'll show you how to do that, but I'm just going to take a look at the last one that we did here, and I don't like number 45. Let's go to 52. So here it has all of the Locus information, and if we select there we can see the Locus data. Now the basic layout shows you buttons which are on the left side. These will go to all the different types of loci, earth, architecture, and installation, as well as going immediately to the supervisor information sheet, or to the pottery pails, or to the artifacts. So that's what the buttons are on the side. And then on the top, this is detailed information about each of the loci. In this case it's locus number 52, so here's where we find our locus data, and if you need to navigate with locus data through the locus data, you can just tap on any one of these names, the words in the list, and it'll give you information, and you can also put the information in there, or you can navigate using the arrows or the slides if you can figure it out. Unfortunately, most of the people who worked on this didn't do very well with sliding, so I added the arrow so things move smoothly. Again, we talked about that supervisor information that you have to put in there, and depending on your project you may or may not have some kind of narrative description by your supervisors. And then we have pottery pail tags. Now what we use is a pottery pail tag, which we've been using for many years, and what I did was I designed this page to look as much like a regular pottery pail tag that you could find if you were to attach it to your pottery pail, or you collect all the pottery and then take it to the lab. It looks as close as possible, but with an added twist, and that is that it will actually fill out the pottery reading for you if you follow these guidelines. And the way you do that is you touch the pottery card, and it brings up this card. Now it automatically went to Iron Age, and it went to Iron Age because our sites, a lot of them are Iron Age material. Now if this were a Hespan, then it would automatically go to Islamic, because we have a lot of Islamic, and that's what we're working in there. But as you can see, the way we add information is that when the person takes a piece of pottery, like this particular piece of pottery, and they say, what I've got there looks like an late Iron II jar. It's actually from Egypt. Anyway, so I'm going to go and I'm going to tap the late Iron II. I'm going to say there's one, and then I'm going to tap jar, and if it has any type of burnish or anything on there, let's say that it's a red burnished ware, that's really nice. And then all we do is we tap the plus button, and what does that do? That little flash there was built in order to make sure people could realize that actually something happened. When we hit the exit button, what we can do is we can look here and find out that, oh, look at that, a late Iron II. That late Iron II, one jar, and one jar with red burnished ware, and that is what we just put in. It automatically fills it in. So if you need to, you can take the paper pottery pail tags, and then you can use this to fill it out. Which is really cool. You can also add photos. What we usually do is we take a photo of the diagnostic sherds and a photo of the table. So if we go to add photos, it's going to take us to where you can add photos, and here you have insert diagnostic photos, insert all sherds photos, and here you can see examples of the photos, and you can add also, again, 163 photos. I don't think you need that many for the diagnostic sherds, but as many as you need, and you can just go to add them. just like that. And you can see it retains all of the same information, and once you add something, you just tap the update button and it sends all the information and updates everything throughout the database. But here's another cool feature, and that is the gallery. If you tap the gallery like so, and we try not to get an error message, let me go back and not get lost again. Here we go. Now here's our gallery. That is, these are all of the photos that are currently diagnostic photos for this locus. Then I can click go back, and I can go to all sherds and do the same thing. These galleries are helpful because you can see all of the photographs, whether it's for the locus or whether it's for the square. They're all grouped together. So this is for your pottery. We can also select the button for artifacts, and here you can see the artifacts, and this is just one. No, we didn't find any Egyptian artifact. Don't I wish? No, instead if we select number 2 here, you can see some nice stones, which is more typical of what we find. And all of the information, this resembles the identification tag that we use on our project. You fill in all of the information, and here's where you add your photographs. But you can see a list, so I can click here and find a list, and it'll show me a list, and look at this list of all of the artifacts that are currently been found for this square. And I can hit that gallery view again, just tap the gallery view, and there it is. Now it shows me, instead of showing me the pottery, now it's showing me all of the artifacts. And you can see, oh, by the way, all of this is sample data. It's just trying to figure out how to fill in boxes so that I can make sure that the buttons work. And so we can just scroll through here, and it gives you information about the locus, the pale number, the field, object number, what type of object. All that information you put in when you are filling it in directly. And then I just click back, takes me back to where I was. Then I can, and if I want to go to something specific, let's say, here we go, I like this one here. Let's see, an object. Here's a stone object, and I'm going to tap that arrow, and what it's going to do is going to take me right to that identification tag, just like that. So all the things are interconnected. Now all you have to do, if you want to add photos here, you can hit the insert photo for the artifacts, or you can go to the artifact button like so, and then tap that little camera, and that's where you can add any photos that you need. So let's return back to where we were. And also, one thing that's also important is always include the staff for each locus that you use. And here is where you put all the staff information, also where you put all of the locus photos. So there's a difference between a square photo and a locus photo. In a locus photo, you are just showing that one area that you are working on currently, but the square is something that gives you a general idea of what the square looked like before you started digging into it that day. So you can also find your top plans here and your top-down photos. So the last feature I'd like to share with you is this cool chart that we have here. Now remember when we put that sherd in, this sherd right here, which was, it's a nice iron 2 sherd. When we put that in, that automatically updated this chart, because this chart gives you information, up-to-date information about every sherd that you include in the database, so that we can see all of the Bronze Age sherds, we can see all the Iron Age sherds, and how many there are. We can see all the late, all the Islamic, or we can see all the periods together. Like I said, all of this is sample. We don't really have all of this, here. But you can also do this by selecting individual loci. So I can scroll up and find that 52, and if I select Iron Age, oh actually I already did, for 52, it shows me, there we go, Iron Age 52, and there's the late Iron Age sherd. If we go to something more detailed, here's the detailed version, and it says late Iron 2, and it has added that sherd that we just put in there. So this will give you a great idea of how your pottery is coming out of the ground. And so once you have, depending on how your project reads pottery, we put it on a table, and then the ceramicist reads the pottery, and then the square supervisor writes that information down. And when that information is written down, you can do it here on the iPad, and then once it's on the iPad, it'll give you some statistics. And now that is, the sky's the limit as to what you can do with this. Anyway, this is an idea of what we're doing with our project and how it is that we use the iPad and the FileMaker database in order for us to keep up-to-date and accurate records. And soon we're going to have this connected to the cloud, which is going to allow us to be connected to each other, and every person who's in the project, so it's a square supervisor or a field supervisor, could access whatever information they have a password to access, including somebody who might be here in the States watching from abroad how the project is developing. If you have any questions, I'm so glad that you joined me today. My name is Robert Bates, and my email is bates@andrews.edu, and I'm glad to talk to you about how we use the iPad and the FileMaker Database for our projects.